Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. Today, we are lucky enough to have the creators of the new musical, The King's Wife, a moving new rock musical about Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, and a friendship that might have been. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show the creative team of The King's Wife, Mêlisa and Jamie Floyd. Mêlisa, Jamie, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having us.
No problem. So I always want to get to know my guests first. So Mêlisa, let's start with you. Who's Mêlisa in 30 seconds? Let's get the 30-second bio of Mêlisa.
In 30 seconds. Oh my goodness. Okay. Who am I? My name is Mêlisa Annis. Hello. I'm a playwright. I'm a director. I'm also a teacher and a producer. I'm from Wales, as you can probably hear from my accent. I'm from a town called Cardiff. Originally, I'm a fluent Welsh language speaker. Let me think. Okay, 30 more seconds. Probably like 10 seconds left. I started my career as an actor. I was touring when I was 12, and I was in a soap opera with my mum as a teenager. And then I realized I was a terrible actor and started writing and directing for theater and moved to New York City 15 years ago. And here we are today writing a musical with Jamie Floyd. Was that about 30 seconds?
Oh my God, that was amazing.
That works for me. And Jamie, in 30 seconds, who are you?
Okay, here we go. Well, my name is Jamie Floyd. I'm originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. I am the daughter of two musicians. I got a record deal with Epic Records out of New York when I was 11, which eventually made me move to Nashville when I was 17 to pursue a career in country music as a country music singer. As I was doing that, I ended up finding that I had talent as a songwriter, and I was accepted in the songwriting community here. I'm two-time Grammy-nominated songwriter, writing songs for Kelly Clarkson and Kesha and Miranda Lambert and all kinds of people I absolutely love and adore, and I can't believe that I actually got to write songs for them. And as I continue as a touring artist, recording artist myself, this is my first venture into the theater world here with The King's Wife, and yeah, so fast. But that's where I am now.
It's so funny. Every time we do these sort of introductions or interviews, Jamie, I'm always reminded that we both had such a sort of a young introduction to this business, where we both kind of came up at the same time. I keep forgetting that point. I guess that's why we get on so well.
It is. We have that in common. We got a really early start. We found out very quickly about the roller coaster of the entertainment business. But it definitely, I think it enriches our songs and our just ability to, as writers, it really gives us a unique perspective.
So you both were in the entertainment industry young, you both said. Was there any point when you were younger growing up and you went, you know what, I love doing the entertainment. Was there something else you wanted to do? Was there another occupation that you went, you know what, I kind of like that too? Mêlisa, anything?
Oh gosh. Well, when I was growing up, I was always a bit of a rebel. I hate rules and I love to break the rules. So my mother was an actress, and I have two dads. My biological father was in the TV industry, and my stepdad was a film director. So it was always sort of in our house, people were always doing things. So as a rebel, I remember I always said to them until I was about 12 years old that I wanted to be a scientist. I was convinced I was going to be the next, I don't know, big deal scientist. And then of course, at the age of 12, I realized you had to be good at math, and I'm dyslexic too. So it was like this whole thing of, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be a scientist. Oh, well, I guess I'm going to go back to entertainment.
Was there any particular branch of science, or you just you hadn't got to that point where you
actually, I remember as a very young kid getting a chemistry set, those toy ones where things bubble.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. And I used to throw things into it all the time. I used to drive my mother crazy. So I remember I wanted to be a chemist. I can't ever imagine doing that now. And I admire science hugely, but there's no way that I could manage that. And so that was quickly abandoned. But I think that's the only thing I ever really wanted to do outside. I didn't really know anything else, So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes, everything in your household seemed to be entertainment. You were kind of just, there was a bubble of it. I can see why you ended up that way.
Yeah.
And Jamie, yourself, was there anything else that you were thinking about pursuing, or was music just so perfect for you?
Well, I mean, I was born like as my parents were loading out after a gig, you know, they went to the hospital right after that. So I kind of was literally born into into the music business and being an entertainer. But I will say, I remember in sixth grade, I when our little sixth grade graduation, where my teacher, my social studies teacher, made a speech about all of us at the graduation. And I made it very known that I wanted to be a politician as well. And that, but you know, it's really crazy because I love debate. I love speech and debate. I loved kind of arguing the underdog's point, and I loved research. And as I went to college for music business here in Nashville, but I got approached by the sociology department, like begging me to come over, which made a lot of sense. And but to this day, it's really interesting because I did always have this calling in terms of politics. And I got involved with an organization here called NSAI, which is basically our songwriters lobbyists group that goes to Washington and that fights for songwriters rights. And I've really found a place with that organization, and it's something I've loved to do. And it's something that I've been involved in for many years. And we helped pass the MMA bill, which has changed the future for songwriters and our royalties. So in a way, my career path as a songwriter led me into politics. And I can't believe that it prepared me for that in such a weird roundabout way, but I do get to kind of be a part of that. And it's been really a really cool thing to see happen, go full circle.
Wow.
Jamie has an amazing picture that she showed me, I think it was last year or the year before, where you're walking down the halls of Congress and you have your guitar on your back. Yeah. And it's such a great picture because it really sort of encapsulates to me what politics is, right? And what government should be, which is there for us. And I loved that image of you as an artist walking down these halls and working for us. It was very cool, very inspiring.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
In 20 years, when I look back and listen to this, I'm going to be going, I had Senator Floyd on the station.
Yay! So, as long as she doesn't stop writing amazing music, I'm okay with that.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
They're playing
You never know, right?
You'd be the greatest filibuster ever.
Right.
You just bring your guitar in.
Right, like imagine the campaign tour. It's a concert the whole time. I love that.
I'll write your speeches.
I can't, but I would vote for you.
Yes, exactly. This is great.
So
oh my
I'd
gosh,
love to know how
awesome.
these parallel lines of yours, your lives, they intersected. So Mêlisa, how did you and Jamie first, find out about each other?
Well, we were actually introduced to each other by our producer. So we have a producer who sort of brought the projects together. And she and I had been working on the story for a few months together, perhaps even a year. I'm not even sure anymore. Time is so bizarre nowadays. And so she said that she'd been introduced to this singer-songwriter's work and she'd fallen in love with a few of her songs. So I was like, okay, well, let's hear it. And after hearing the first song, we both kind of went, okay, we need to speak to Jamie and meet Jamie. And so through our producer's mutual contact that was kind of the in-between us and Jamie, we actually got to chit-chat on the phone, I think, and then we met and we just kind of married each other, I guess, back then.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it was like it was the summer or like spring or summer of 2018. And because I remember I was shooting the first TV show I ever got to be on, and I remember getting the call from Marianne Good, who's a dear friend and champion of mine, and she's like, hey, I got this call from this Broadway producer. Because I'd written a lot for film and television and to script. So, I'd written a lot to script. And she was like, I think that you can write a Broadway musical. I was like, what? She's like, this is what you do. It's just a different medium. I know you can do it. And she's like, do you have any interest? And I was like, yeah. But I wanted to see the script and all of that, and so once we got together and chatted about it, and then of course I got to read the beautiful work the story that they had been working on. It just, I guess my not only did I connect with Mêlisa, in Nashville, we co-write, we do a lot of co-writing sessions on songs. But even though Mêlisa and I aren't writing the songs together, we are co-writers, because our jobs are so intertwined. And so you get lucky sometimes and you get in a room with a co-writer for the first time in Nashville and you feel like, oh my God, I've fallen in love with you at first sight. And that's kind of what happened with us. We just immediately were these collaborators that it felt like we had been working together forever and we had just met. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
So who brought the story? Like, Mêlisa, did you bring the story or did somebody else introduce it to the two of you, or how did that work?
So it's sort of multi-level in a way. The producer brought the idea together. She had a one sheet of, she really was inspired by this idea of Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn actually being friends that were, torn apart by the system that they were in. And so that's sort of where it sort of started. Of course, over the years, it's changed, it's evolved, it's now, it still has that core idea of these two women who lived in the same sort of world, basically, being torn apart by their circumstances. But it's become a lot more about sort of us as women today, seeing it sort of through that period lens, and how we still don't always have the ability to make the choices that we want to make for ourselves and, over our bodies, especially over our bodies. In Tudor times, it was, you're a birthing machine. So, so the story has evolved. It's still primarily about Catherine of Aragon, how much of a warrior woman she was, and how, had she just been born a man, she probably would have been an incredible king, and how she supported Henry VIII. Through 20 years of his reign. And so it's still very much about her, but she's taken most of the mantle of the story now. And Anne Boleyn is still in it and still very much a part of the story of the friendship, and how, circumstances essentially put them, the world put them in this place where they couldn't be who they wanted to be, because Anne Boleyn was also an extraordinary woman, extraordinary, and learned a lot from Catherine of Aragon. So it's sort of, we just wanted to retell the story through a sort of our female lens, as opposed to the predominantly male lens of history,
For sure, for sure. And Jamie, when you were writing the songs, did you find it, I don't know the words, difficult or just different? Because when you write pop or country or rock or whatever, the songs are isolated unto themselves. The story arc is within themselves. But then now you're writing 15 songs or what it is, where the story arc is within a story arc. Did you find that different, or was it easy, or how did you find that?
Well, I'm one of these odd creators that I love rules.
Okay.
I love them. I love them. I love being given parameters and a script and a laser focus on an emotion or on a scene. Okay. And I know a lot of songwriters like to go in a room and be like, there's nothing, there's no limit on what we can write. We can do anything. And I love going, actually do exactly this. That I really thrive in that kind of environment, which is really funny. And so in Nashville, having my songwriting background being in the spirit of the Nashville way, which is storytelling, which is everything is this just multi-layered story. I come from that school of songwriting, so it was a very natural transition to go into script writing, to write songs for script. And so but musical theater has been different for me in that I'm used to writing for film and television. They typically want you to the song to encompass the emotion and the overall kind of this universal feeling instead of being directly on the nose. And I notice in musical theater, it's like, we need it to be exactly on the nose. We need the exact details and the exact, we need story. We need every single detail and be as on the nose as you could be. And so, so I've had to learn to, in some circumstances to be more on the nose, to be a lot more detailed than I normally would, in order to make sure that the song is telling the story as, the way the script is, which I'm not quite used to. Yeah. But it's been really beautiful to understand how the songs all talk to each other, and how they talk to the script. Because I notice in other circumstances with film, especially, the songs don't necessarily talk to the script the way they do in musical theater. They have to be having this ongoing conversation in musical theater, which has been really fun to learn about, and to be thrown into the fire of that. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And all the songs, by the way, are, this is more of a pop, rock musical, but of course you have your big ballads, the ballads that everybody waits for, and those heart-shattering moments, but a lot of it is really current. Everything is like current commercial music, kind of the up tempos are in your face, and there's no country involved, other than I had a background in country music songwriting. so yeah.
Right. And Melissa, how far, where are we sitting with the show now? At what point are we at with it?
Well, we're now working with a musical director and a director. Okay. The amazing Tamla Woodard and Brandon Bush are working with us on this right now. So that has actually, the thing about collaboration is that it always brings an extra layer of development. Mm-hmm. So I really feel like we've hit a new stride since we've grown now a little team from the two of us to now the four of us. Yeah. So I'd say that we're still very much in development. We have a reading coming up at Playwrights Horizons in January, which we're excited about, a theater in New York City. Nice. So we're laser focused on getting things ready for that. It's been great for us to have a place to get to, or to try and get the show to, but you know how it is, you're just always making changes, even until the day you open. But I'd say that the structure of our show is there. Jamie's written an immense amount of beautiful music, and now we're basically whittling. We're in that place of whittling away and absorbing some scenes into more songs, and some songs are going away and some songs are coming back. So we're playing a little bit of chess right now, but it's basically there. We're just kneading a little bit.
Nice. And a song, and you've released one of the songs already on Spotify, and we played on the station. Jamie, tell us a little bit about that song.
Thanks. Well, thank you for playing it. So the song is called I Know You. And I want to say it was written now a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half or so ago. And I Know You happens, I'm trying to remember, Melissa, exactly the scene where it happens now. Now I remember, because we've changed so many things around.
I know, everything keeps moving.
I'm like, wait a minute, where is it now? But essentially it happens in a moment where Catherine is having one of her greatest losses, and Anne Boleyn, being the closest friend and confidant to her, is watching as Catherine experiences this tragedy, and Anne is watching her and going, even in your darkest moment, I can see you shining through, and I can see you getting on the other side of this, because I know you, and I know that you are so much bigger than everything that has come against you, and from a personal standpoint, the beautiful thing I love about this musical is that I'm learning that, of course, you find yourself in these characters, right? And that's how you are able to write, or at least that's how I am. And I in this particular instance, a friend of mine had someone in the business, kind of tell her that she was over, and I remember, needing to write this song, and it just so happened that my friend told me what happened to her, and I wrote that song looking at my friend and seeing them telling her that she was over, and that I just knew that they were wrong. I just knew that she had so much more ahead of her. And I wrote that for her. And of course it was for our scene, but it is so real life. Like that was truly how I feel about my friend being up against, you know, someone telling her she didn't have what it takes anymore. And that's exactly what was happening that was happening to Catherine, and Anne was just stepping in and going, that is not true, and that will never be true. And that's how I know you kind of came to be.
The song, if I might just jump in, is sort of
Sure.
like the crux of the musical in many ways, because it was very important to us not to have woman pitted against woman, you know, and that's the way that they've always been sort of portrayed in history, and, you know, how women are often portrayed in musical theatre. Actually, there's often that sort of, you know, cattiness that you see in old musical theatre. And so that song really, really encapsulates that feeling of woman supporting woman, helping each other up, you know, as opposed to elbowing each other out the way. And so it's a very important song, I think, in the grand scheme of the show.
And it's probably nice. It's songs like that are probably easier to write when they're based on, you know, actual emotions and knowing, because you can write a song and you know, you can write a song. You can write a song, but the emotional connection isn't there. But when you have the emotional connection, you can hear it in the song and the words and the music. So
yes, I think it's so important to hit the nerves and to kind of affect yourself before you can affect anyone else, you know. And if it's real to you, if you can make it as personal as possible. I always say that I'm a nonfiction writer. And so that is very true with this. And even though, you know, there are scenes and scenarios, of course, in this musical that I personally haven't experienced, I, you know, kind of translating those moments into something that has broken my heart, you know, or something that I've seen happen to friends of mine and everything. It just, everywhere that I can, I've tried to inject as much experience into these songs, so that even though, of course, this story took place, you know, long before our lifetimes, you can feel a sense of you know, there's a current sense of emotion in all of them I'm hoping to achieve. So, and you know, that we all in this day and age could relate to.
You really do. It's like the thing that I'm always amazed by with this musical is that, I don't know, we keep switching in who's Catherine and who's Anne, whether who's which one of us is playing which role. And it feels a little bit like that in life, doesn't it? Which is sort of, you know, that we have the sort of the bad guys, the bad characters, not necessarily men, but, you know, the not so savory characters. And we always relate them to who are those people in our lives right now, and what are they doing to us. So it's really quite like having therapy sessions with Jamie sometimes, because we get to just bounce back and forth with what's going on in our lives.
And that has been something else that's inspired me so much in my writing, because, you know, you really can't, as a songwriter, the script has to be there first, you know, the heartbeat of that has to be there first before you can take that and run with it. So I've been very lucky to have that as a springboard, you know.
Very cool. So where is it going next? You mentioned something in New York. What's going on?
We have a reading at Playwrights Horizons, which is an off-Broadway theatre in New York City. We're very excited about that, because we were supposed to have our reading, was it last year? I guess it was last year, but because of COVID, obviously everything got pushed back, which in a strange way, it's one of those happy accidents that actually has helped us continue working and developing. So we've been using that extra time that we've had to really dig into some new ideas. So we have that going on, and we're still very much in development. We have a weekly meeting that we have as a team, where we get together and write, and we just had a little Zoom reading. Was it last month now, Jamie, that we got to hear it again? So that was really helpful. It's, you know, actors are sent to us from heaven so that we can, you know, they make our work sound better than it is sometimes, but they're actually so helpful, because it just allows us to step back and go, what do we have here? So we were very lucky to have an incredible cast come and join us over the Zooms to hear it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the show. For sure in January, and I look forward to seeing where this is going to go in the future, and I'm going to follow along and promote it whenever I can. So if you've got another song to release, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, before we go, I always ask 3 questions of my guests, just to get to know you a little bit better. I know we had the interview, but now
boy.
Now,
I'm scared.
There's no right or wrong answers. Don't worry. Well, except for
There totally is a wrong answer.
We're
There's
gonna
always a
judge
wrong
you.
answer. When people say that, they know there's a wrong answer.
all right. So
Yeah.
question number one, Melissa, we'll start with you for the question. Then, so you get to think about it, Jamie.
Oh, boy.
What creator or team within musical theater has had a good influence on you? No, this
Oh
could be a
my
composer, a lyricist, a director, producer, stage manager, actor. Could be somebody famous or not famous, like a teacher. Is there anybody in the world of musical theater that's had an influence on you?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's such a great question. You know,
Mm.
I actually go back to my childhood. I was a big musical theatre fan when I was a kid, and I'm still a bit of a musical theatre nerd, in all honesty. I like to pretend I'm not, but I am. And because I speak Welsh, I grew up in a Welsh language school where all of our shows were in the Welsh language. So one of my first musicals, I mean, I grew up going to lots of musicals that my mother wrote a few, and she wrote a couple of kids musicals when I was growing up. But there was this author named Clive Harpwood who wrote a musical called Nia Ben Aur, which is an Irish folk story. And it was a rock musical, basically based in mythology. And I played it over and over and over again. So I'd have to say that Clive Harpwood and Carol Parry-Jones and a lot of the Welsh authors of my childhood really had a huge influence on me.
Nice. And Jamie?
Wow, love that. So being someone who's new to the musical theater world, I've always had such an appreciation for the talent because it's just mind-blowing everywhere you turn. But I'm somebody who's new to that. You know, I come from commercial music, and someone who inspired me long before I ever got involved with The King's Wife was Sarah Bareilles. And I remember just being a fan of hers and following her career and being so moved by her songs. I remember hearing a song of hers called Gravity that will just destroy you. And when I, of course, you know, being in the commercial world, we all heard about when she had this opportunity with Waitress. And I remember being so intrigued by that because I really, you know, was so green and had no idea what her songs would sound like in a musical theater, you know, format. And I remember getting to go see it, you know, a couple different times in Nashville and New York, and at different times I saw it a few different times. And I loved that how she brought this story to life, you know, because I'd seen the movie as well. But I loved how you could hear her throughout the musical. You know, you could hear her in her songs, but at the same time that never got in the way of the story. And I thought that was so beautiful that piece of her was within the musical, and just the way it is on her albums and any other songs I had heard her write. And the way that she took the best parts of commercial music and use them as little tools within the theater world, but then just excelled at what I thought was just a really beautiful offering in that world and for the stage was so impressive to me. And I thought, oh my gosh. And you know what, if I hadn't have seen her do that recently, I don't know that I would have thought that I could do it, you know. And certainly I'm trying. I certainly haven't done it yet, but I will say that was just an inspiration that, wow, someone like me, you know, like her, that comes from our world could be accepted also and be welcomed the way that she was. And that's the one other thing I'll say. I've been blown away with how welcoming everybody's been to me, because I am I'm a new kid. and I certainly don't have the incredible accolades and experience that everyone around me has in the theater world, but it's just been such an accepting, beautiful place to create. And Sarah's work really inspired me to do it. So.
Very nice. Both correct answers.
Oh, thank God.
All right. So question number 2. All right. So Melissa, we know you speak Welsh, obviously, right? And Jamie, you are a country writer. So my question is, have you thought about collaborating on a country song in Welsh? Because there is a festival, there is a country festival in Wales called, where is it? Welsh Pool Country Music Festival.
Oh my goodness, that is such a good idea. We've never even considered this. We could win ourselves a chair. I know it sounds, I'm not being petty. In Wales, we have a competition called the Eisteddfod. And I think it actually still happens in North America, but it's a very old pagan festival that we have where you write songs and poetry, and it's where we all got our start. And you get a chair when you win. So maybe we should go for it.
Wow. I would love that. I had no idea such a thing existed. I would love that.
Right. So yeah, I'd love to see Jamie's headlining the Welsh Country Music Festival. Singing your songs
so
in
much
Welsh.
coaching.
Oh my gosh.
So much coaching.
Jamie, we would have so much fun if we were in Wales together. We may never come back. We might just go off into the woods and become fairies together or something.
I know.
Have you ever heard of a country song in Welsh? Either of you?
Oh yeah, there's loads of
country
good
songs?
country songs.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Mike Stevens was
Wow.
huge, and Edward H. Davis, and there's loads and loads of good ones. In fact, Bob
Wow.
Dylan, I think he
Wow,
named himself
yes.
Bob Dylan because of his love for Dylan Thomas, who is a Welsh
Wow.
playwright and poet.
So there we go, Jamie. You have a whole market of Welsh music and Welsh.
All right.
songs, country
I'm going to
songs.
spam you later, okay, Jamie? I'll send you a bunch of links.
Let's do it.
All right, that really wasn't a question,
Oh my
but
God.
I threw it out there to see if you had done it or if you.
Love
So, correct answer, because if it happens, I definitely want to hear this. So
Yeah. I started with you.
Exactly. Started
Well-
right here.
Well, Senator Floyd, I'm glad
Yeah.
I could help.
I like President Floyd more like
well,
it.
well, you
Yeah.
want to work your way up because sometimes
Yes.
it's easier to so.
Ambition is critical, guys. Ambition is
Exactly.
critical.
You never
might
know.
see President Floyd at some point, but let's get the senator and then president. So.
Yeah, we got to move our way up the ranks. Yes.
All right. Question number
Oh.
3, and the one that's going to tell us the most about the two of you. Cell phones in the theater or food in the theater?
Mm.
Which is worse? Melissa?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh.
Well, first of all, cell phones are really annoying when you're doing a period piece and suddenly you hear doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And you're like, I didn't know Shakespeare had that ringtone going on. So cell phones are really annoying, but more annoying than the ring is the light that comes off a cell phone when you're trying to watch a play and someone's sending a text message. That drives me bonkers. Food, I think, I can deal with food because, I'm a creature of the dinner theater scene. So I'm okay with the clanging and the rustling of plastic, trying to get those candies out. So cell phones for me.
Yeah, I feel like food can in terms of which is worse. I feel like food is you're watching and you're eating while you're watching, so you're not necessarily distracted. I'm usually a very focused eater. My husband, when we eat out, he calls it competitive eating.
You
So
totally are a focused eater. I know
Yeah.
exactly what he means, actually.
But I will say, if I'm, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've really been presented with an eating theater situation, but anyway, I think I can focus on my eating, but still, watch TV like I would or whatever, at home. But I think when a cell phone is a distraction from the actual, piece that you're watching, whereas food can be, can go seamlessly along with it.
It also could be
Cell phones
emotional
kind of pull you out of the
support.
moment.
Yes, exactly. Food can give you that, like,
Yes.
give me a bar of
Yes.
chocolate during a sad moment,
Yeah,
and I'll feel
food
so
could
much
actu-
more.
Yeah, food can enhance the experience, whereas I feel like the cell phone distracts you from it.
Yeah.
So
Well, as a
that's my
side-
stance.
As a side
officially.
question, Jamie, when you're on stage performing, they must have cell phones out and things like that. They're probably not using this as
Mhm.
much. But do you even notice the cell phones? I guess it's a different atmosphere, obviously, but when you're doing a
Yes. Yes, it is a different atmosphere. You do notice, again, that's a really great point, because I don't notice people eating or drinking or being offended by that ever. But what is hard is when you're in the middle of like just a gut-wrenching song, or you're just going for it and you look out and someone's texting instead of watching. That's really difficult because all the wind is out of your sails. You're just going, okay. I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge too. I'm like, I'm going to silence this place if it's the last thing I do, but it's a little bit of an encouragement, but at the same time, you're like, really? And I also have empathy when I'm at a show or when we're playing songwriters rounds and I see someone just giving their all in their song and I look out and somebody is texting. It's like, it's just so heartbreaking. It's so hard to watch, but yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because of the different worlds we come from in some ways. Cell phones are a bigger part of your life, right, Jamie? Because I see footage of you doing your gigs, you should follow Jamie's Instagram. It's kind of amazing. You always get to see bits of her singing around the country and the world. But it's so it feels like it's, I know I'm always intrigued that people are so used to watching screens now that when they're watching artists, that they're watching them on the screen even though they're in front of them. And that's sort of an interesting thing that happens a lot, I know, at shows, whereas in theatre, you know, we knock them out of their hands and say, how dare you?
Right. Yeah, I think like people obviously videoing or doing that is like, oh, that's, you know, that feels good. But it's the texting. When you see that somebody's furiously texting, you're like, no.
Jamie, did you hear the story about
part of the territory?
Hand to God? There was a show on Broadway where somebody, you know, it was the set was somebody's home, and somebody had decided to climb up on stage and plug in their cell phone to charge on the set. Thinking it was a real plug, but also thought it was okay to put
what?
Yeah.
Is that real?
That's real. A friend of mine was in it, and I remember thinking,
really?
oh God, I don't know how to even, I just pretended it didn't happen because I didn't know how to even have that conversation with him. But it was just, what a crazy experience. Can you imagine being acting on stage and someone's just climbing up? Just, excuse me, just put my cell phone in right here. So cell phone's definitely banned.
No, I can't.
Yes.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I also would have accepted both are terrible, but these stories have been fantastic. So I'm going to give you extra points.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
You're welcome. There's no prizes, so the points don't matter. But
what are we doing here? What? This is not what I agreed to. Where's my car under my chair?
Thank you so much, Melissa and Jamie, for coming on and introducing myself and the world to The King's Wife. And best of luck to both of you with everything that's going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for supporting what we're doing, and I really appreciate you spreading the word.
Not a problem. It was my pleasure. All right, so we were just speaking with Melissa Ennis and Jamie Floyd, the creators of the musical The King's Wife. Tune in next week as we'll be speaking with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.
Bye.
Bye.